My entitled sisters demanded to profit off my vacation home. What happened next tore the family apart. When I refused, their husbands broke in and are now facing charges. Happened today. My folks decided to host a barbecue because I guess that is what older people do. I declined because I really do not like my two sisters, their husbands, or their kids. Wife and I are child-free. Mom then pressured the wife. Long story short, we went. By the time we arrived, there were about 20 people there. My sisters and their husbands were already solidly buzzed. Drunk, really. My mom was spending 100% of her time trying to keep the nieces and nephews, ages 7 to 11, more or less under control. My dad had strategically retreated to the whirlpool part of the pool with a small cooler full of beers. Wife and I made small talk with miscellaneous people, ate food, and had a frozen margarita. Sisters and brothers-in-law took turns criticizing us for being late, not being in our swimsuits, and screwing up the vibe. Whatever. Typical suburban summer get-together. About 45 minutes in, two of the kids ran at one of the neighbor guests who was standing next to the pool and pushed her in. She was at the pool steps, stumbled in but did not fall, so only got half wet. She was clearly very unhappy about it, but she did not make a scene, just went over to where the parents were, grabbed their towels, dried herself off and left. Sisters and brothers-in-law thought it was all great fun. A bit later I was standing a few feet away from the pool, chatting away with someone. I saw 3 of the kids running full tilt at me from the corner of my eye. Obviously I was next. Not that it is terribly difficult to outwit young kids, but I just jumped out of their way at the last second. All 3 of them ran straight into the pool at full speed. Most of the other guests, including my wife and me, started laughing. But their moms, who, as I mentioned, were pretty drunk, absolutely freaked out. Apparently, 2 of the kids could not swim, even though they were in swimsuits. Since I was not in swim gear, I stepped back from the pool and let other people fish the kids out. The kids were bawling their heads off like they lost a limb. That point, all hell broke loose. The 4 drunk parents were yelling at everyone in general, and me in particular, for nearly letting their kids drown. And also because 2 of the kids had been videoing the trick using their parents' iPhones, which were now at the bottom of the pool. One of my brothers-in-law got into the pool to try to retrieve the phones, but his BMI and blood alcohol content made that impossible. No one else volunteered to help. Unsurprising, given that my sisters were still yelling at everyone. I told my sisters it was their job to watch their kids, and that if anything had happened to them, it would have been their responsibility, not mine. There were some pretty strong words on both sides. Wife and I left after the other brother-in-law fell over and face-planted while yelling at us. Now they are saying I should have let the little kids knock me into the pool and have their fun and ruin my phone. Side note. Dad, of course, never got out of the whirlpool. Relevant comments. Thoughts from the original poster. I realized they are just kids and they were just having fun. The fact that they thought this was okay is more of a reflection on their parents than them. Just wish we had not gone. It is nice to see my folks and their neighbors, but I really do not like my sisters or their husbands. They do not hide their envy of us and they are just exhausting to be around. More about why the original poster does not care for some of his family. It is more of an oil and water sort of thing. I have never been close to my sisters. They are 8 and 10 years older than me. I also do not have much in common with their husbands. They are okay guys, but I just do not care about the things that are important to them and vice versa. I do know that the 4 of them are somewhat envious of our lifestyle. Both the sisters are stay-at-home moms. Both the husbands make good money. One makes noticeably more than I do. But both my wife and I have professional careers. We do not have kids and we are way more responsible with money. As a result, we have a lot more investments, etc. And we do not have to drive cars full of kid debris, and we take nice trips once or twice a year. It definitely gets on both sisters' nerves, and by extension their husbands. So we get some petty behavior from them on an ongoing basis. Overall, neither my wife nor I enjoy their company, which is why I wanted to skip the get-together. Just not worth it to me. But my wife is a positive person and is usually happy to see them. Hopefully, next time your wife will not feel guilt into going. That is probably the one positive thing that will come out of this. Wife is much more tolerant and forgiving than I am towards my siblings, but based on what she was saying on the way home, I think she has had it with them as well. Your dad sounds awesome. Yeah, my dad is very chill. He loves being around groups of people, used to be in sales, likes people to enjoy themselves, and is definitely enjoying life as a retiree. He and 2 other guys with him just sat there and watched the show. Mom is cool too, but the situation upset her. Kids okay. Kids are fine. By the time I left, they were inside watching TV. I think they are 7, 9, 10, 10, and 11. It was the middle 3 who played kamikaze with me. I am guessing the 11-year-old egged them on. She is usually the ringleader. You phrased the part about your parents hosting a barbecue oddly. I had to shorten the post to fit in the character limit. My folks are gregarious and like to have people over. They have the classic great for entertaining house and are always coming up with a reason to get together. They had wanted everyone to be at their place for the 4th of July, but one of my sisters and her family were on vacation, so this was a fake 4th of July party, complete with flags, red, white, and blue decorations, barbecue, a margarita machine, etc. Sparklers were promised to the kids. My nieces and nephews were the only kids there. All of the neighbors are older, like my parents. Original poster is voted not the a-hole. Update post, August 17th, 2023, almost 1 month later. First off, my folks tell me that my nieces and nephews are all good swimmers and that they use the pool all the time. The 7-year-old is still a beginner, but he loves the water. My sister just said they could not swim to look better. To be fair, none of the kids are allowed in the deep end, which is where they fell in. It was the 2 10-year-olds and the 9-year-old who tried to push me into the pool. After we left, the party ended on a pretty sour note. My drunk brother-in-law, who face-planted while yelling at me, had to go to an urgent care place and get his face stitched up. He was too drunk to drive, so Dad took him. Dad was very not happy about this. Late that evening, my sister started a group text and said some really nasty crap. Their husbands threw in a few comments as well. Wife and I blocked the 4 of them. My mom called me. She was pretty upset about what they said. She and Dad were in the chat, and I do not blame her. Because of the texts, my folks insisted my sisters and brothers-in-law come over the next day, Sunday, without their kids, to get some things straight and lay down some ground rules. Mom's wording. The result was a contrite, if unenthusiastic, apology from the siblings via my mom's phone. I am glad my wife was with me when they called. Her hard stares kept me from saying what I wanted to. I just told them thanks and that we felt no need to discuss it further. Since I thought things were settled, I unblocked them. That evening, I got a text from one of the brothers-in-law telling me the phones cost dollars and asking when I would be paying for them. What the hell? I replied never, took a screenshot of his text, and forwarded it to my folks with a note that we were done with this nonsense. We are going no contact with sisters and their spouses and not to invite us to any more holidays or get-togethers if they will be present. Then I blocked the sisters and their spouses again. At that point, the real chaos hit the fan. Dad called them and ripped them a new one. Among other things, he told them the grandkids were not welcome at his place indefinitely. Since my mom regularly provides free babysitting, that got them pretty rattled. He also banned them from using the vacation house and told them my wife and I actually own it, not he and Mom. This completely freaked them out. Both of my sister's families use the place a lot, including having their friends up for weekend getaways. This was very much out of character for my folks. They had clearly had it. And for reference, I never wanted my sisters to know we own the place. We bought it for my folks. They had always wanted a place in the mountains. Keeping the ownership quiet was just a way to avoid drama with my siblings. A couple of days later, my sisters and their husbands came to our place unannounced to apologize in person. We were out to dinner, and they left a note. One sister also called me at work, too. I sent her to voicemail. We have decided being no contact is the best thing for the indefinite future and have not interacted with them for the last 3+ weeks. Personally, I am done. They can go pound sand. Relevant comments. How life has been. It has been less than a month, but I have to say that blocking them has actually made our lives noticeably more peaceful. I had not realized how much ongoing low-level drama they create. It is not tough toxic. They are not bad people. They are just tiresome and petty. And I personally do not care about them using the weekend place. It is ours technically, but we bought it for my folks. They control it and decide who uses it when they are not. We pay for all the operating costs and taxes. One good thing about this blow-up is that we now know what we will be doing with the property when my folks get older. I was prepared to take over managing it, allocating weekends, maintaining it and such. But now we know we will just sell it. And if we want to go to the mountains, we will just rent an Airbnb. Original poster's parents. Yeah, my folks are not dumb. They are pretty laid back though. Very much live and let live. I figure they will ease up on all of this soon, but that is their decision. We still will not be attending any family events for the foreseeable future. What sucks for my sisters is that they are probably very worried that I will keep them from using the cabin. I will not. That is up to mom and dad until they are older. And it puts an end to one of the sisters' fantasy of building a compound of houses when we inherit the property, which I have known about for some time and just ignored. Normally, the lots up there only have one area that can be built on, but this piece of property is way larger because it is at the end of a road. At least 3 houses with great views could be placed on that land. They are not genuinely sorry. They just want things from you. I agree completely. Their apologies are not sincere, and I have no plans to interact with them anytime soon. Regarding them using the vacation home, that is really my parents' decision. Yes, technically I own it and cover all the expenses, but I bought it for them and gave them day-to-day control over it. They are good people, and they always wanted a getaway place for the family. But there is no way they could have ever bought it themselves. I could afford to buy it for them because I have been fortunate financially. Save, invest like a demon, plus I got a massive bonus the same year I sold my home and moved in with my now wife. I do not care if my folks let my siblings use the house, but I will admit I am enjoying my sister's discomfort over finding out that I could afford to buy the place and let my folks use it while never mentioning it to them. Dad changed the lock code when they went up last week, so now only he, mom, my wife and I have it. With regards to mom babysitting the kids, she tells me that once a week she and sometimes dad have been going over to each sister's place and spending the day with the kids. When school started, she was going to pick each set up from school once a week on separate days and take them home, spend the evening with them. She says the 5 of them together stress her out, but separately they are fine. Mom and dad have both told me they do not plan on having my sisters and their families back to their place in the foreseeable future, and that they are enjoying the quiet. My guess is that they were already tired of the old dynamic and used the pool party nonsense as an excuse to make some changes to the relationships. One fun note on why the post was removed from the original subreddit. According to the message I just read from the other sub's moderator, the violence was property damage. I still do not get it. The phone's being ruined, I guess. Ridiculous. Update to the update. August 26, 2023. 9 days from the previous post. Well, it has been an interesting last few days. I thought the chaos had hit the fan before, but it was more of a fart compared to what has happened this week. For this to make sense, I need to provide some financial context. My folks have not ever been any good at saving money. I have been doing their taxes for years, so I know pretty much everything about them money-wise. Their house is paid for and they have minimal debt, but they did not save much for retirement. Both of them get Social Security. Dad gets a solid pension and they have a bit of savings, but there is no treasure chest in the basement. I bought their current car for them after they retired. A retirement present so they could have something nice to drive. It was the first car in probably 20 years they did not lease. My sisters are convinced the folks are dripping with money, and that our parents will be leaving the 2 of them everything since I do not need more money. So they have never cared about saving either. Turns out my oldest sister and her husband, they have 3 kids, have been living beyond their means for some time and are in financial straits. They have maxed out their credit card and are behind on their car leases to the point that one is about to get repossessed. He bragged in the past about making a certain amount per year, but it turns out to be about half that. She confessed all this to Mom on Tuesday because they need a loan. And this was a what the hell moment for Mom and Dad. For the last 3 years, instead of staying at the vacation house regularly, she has actually been renting it out once a month or so and pocketing the cash. We are talking $2,000 plus for a weekend and at least $4,000 for a week. With her being cut off from using the place, She has had to cancel one group already. She is now worried they will lose everything. My folks are not in any position to give them a loan. My other sister was aware of her renting out the place, but of course has never said anything. I suspect she has done the same thing as well because I went up there once to drop off an ATV I had worked on, and there was a family there who claimed to be staying there with my sister, her family, and that they had gone to town for something. At the time I let it go. I figured she had loaned out the house to some friends, but I have always wondered. I found all this out through my folks, who are pretty stressed out about it. Mom more than Dad. He is mainly just pissed off about it all. I know Dad feels betrayed, and I imagine he is embarrassed that he is in no position to help his daughter out. He did reiterate that, as long as it is up to him, the girls will not be using the vacation home anytime soon. My folks let me know what is going on because they figured my sisters would put a full court press on me next, and they were right. On Thursday my sisters came to our place again, without husbands this time, and waited outside the door until I got home. I had to choose between fighting with them in public, them making a scene if I went in without them, or letting them in. So I let them in. I got a story from the older sister, with the younger one backing her up, regarding why I needed to let them use the mountain place again immediately. They also said I have been a terrible brother and that I needed to step up and plan on paying for their kids' college tuition, since that is what family does. I let them pitch their story, then called them out based on what my folks had told me. Things went downhill from there. There was denial, crying, cursing, yelling, you name it. I swear my ears are still ringing 2 days later. I will not lie, I said some really mean and terrible things to them, but nothing that was not true. They finally left after about an hour. After that I took a shower and laid down. When I got up, my wife was home, and her first words were that she had to block more phone numbers because my sisters were blowing up our phones from new ones. Folks messaged me yesterday asking me to call. I am sure my sisters have told them some version of what happened, but I am not up to rehashing it yet. I am usually a pretty energetic person, but this drama has me beaten down. I had just enough energy today to drive up to the vacation house and padlock the entrance gate shut. I am the only one with a key. I am guessing that will be enough to ensure my siblings leave the place alone. They would probably die trying to walk the 400 yards uphill to get to the house. New updates after old video. Update 3, post dated September 12, 2023, 2.5 weeks from the last update. Yet another update regarding the cluster mess that is my extended family. Thought it might be time given what has gone on over the past 2 weeks. After my sisters came to my place, my mom and dad told me they were done with managing the vacation home. Sounded like the sisters had been pressuring them to let them use the place again. Basically, my folks handed the responsibility for the place over to me and told me it was my problem from here on out. Up until then, they had kept track of who would be using it when, and they had taken care of routine maintenance, replacing worn-out items, etc. In any case, they decided they did not want to be in the middle of all this crap. While I do not blame them, I am disappointed because the damn place was supposed to be something for them to enjoy and hang out in, and they use it regularly. Plus, I have never cared that they let my sisters and their families use it because really, I have always thought that was my parents' call, even though I technically own it. But now my folks are going to be in the position of not having access without me being involved, and that changes the whole dynamic of the place. I have taken several steps to secure the place. I already mentioned that I locked the gate. It has a heavy-duty chain and the best lock I could find. I also did a full reset on all the door keypads and created all new codes. Security cameras got installed yesterday, which is actually pretty cool because the installer convinced me to put a high-resolution one that looks out over the valley. The system cost me way more than I thought it would, but the peace of mind is worth it. The installer also put up signs on the property saying the place was monitored by video. I also installed a heavy-duty lockout for the water shut-off drain valve. I hope to hell I do not lose the keys for it because if I do, it is going to be a bear to try to remove. I have not told anyone but my wife that the water is locked off. And again, only we have the keys. Last week, I got separate calls at my office from both of the husbands trying to convince me to let them use the house like they always have. The older one had gone up with some friends for a guy hangout but could not get in because of the gate lock. He was pretty pissed and embarrassed about being locked out. I am sure he would have broken the lock if he could have. During his call, he kept bouncing between pushy and victimhood. At one point, he threatened to rip that gate out of the ground. He also admitted they had been renting it out to a few friends, that they needed the money, and that I was ruining their business, and that I should refund their guests' money. Me. Forget that. I should have recorded the conversation with him, but I do not know how to do that from an office phone. Anyway, the other brother-in-law just sounded like he was being made to call by my sister. He did not really put up a fight when I told him not to plan on ever using the place again. In any case, I told them they cannot use the place and not to ask again. At this point, I am considering selling the vacation home. Wife and I will not use it enough to justify keeping it, and it is not like there is going to be any family get-togethers there anytime soon. I mentioned selling it to my folks. Their response was pretty much whatever. I would more than double my money by selling it. The place consists of 3 lots with killer views and is at the end of a private road. But I will probably wait for a while to sell. Doing so now would be an emotional decision. My sisters and I are not currently speaking, and I have no plans to initiate contact. I do not know what the status between them and my folks is, and I do not want to. On the upside, we spent an evening with my folks last week, went to a new restaurant. That was nice. No one brought up any of this crap. Mom did update us on the nieces and nephews. She is spending time with them at their homes. Sorry this update is not full of laughs or dramatic wins. That is just life sometimes. Update post for October 16th, 2023, 1 month later. Couple of people have asked for an update. Here you go. I hired a guy to manage and look over the vacation home. He lives in the area, takes care of his folks, and manages a good number of properties. Some are vacation rentals, some are weekend places like ours. He has access to my camera feeds and does a physical check on the house every week or two. I think he may have the best job in the mountains. He gets paid to drive around with his dog, walk around the properties, and hang out on people's decks whenever he feels like it. He also has a camera feed from a house near the start of the private road that takes still shots whenever a vehicle goes past it. $450 per month, plus he will do basic maintenance and repairs on an hourly basis. He is friends with all of the sheriff's deputies too. I got a lot of peace of mind from doing this, and he sends photos from his walks to everyone once or twice a week. I have to brag a bit on my parents. I got all this from them tonight at dinner. They were getting pressure from my sisters to demand that I open up the vacation house to everyone for Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving up there had become quite the tradition for the family. Not for me or my wife. We have gone once in several years. My dad refused to bother me about it because he knew I would say no. They came up with what I think is a great plan. Announced that they were organizing the Thanksgiving gathering, and if everyone split the cost in advance, they would rent an Airbnb in the mountains. Otherwise, they would host Thanksgiving at their place, or one of the sisters could host it. This caused a fight between the sisters, because the middle sister was all for doing the Airbnb, but the oldest one does not have any money. The deadline to commit to the Airbnb has passed. Looks like Thanksgiving will be at my parents' place regardless. We will not be there. My parents have asked that we not sell the place for now. They decided they would still like to use it occasionally, but not until my sisters have come to terms with the new normal. And of course they would probably like it if everyone could get together there again down the road. But that is just not going to happen. I would just as soon sell it and move on at this point, but I can live with keeping it if my folks do use it now and again. Plus, it will be worth even more down the road. Wife and I have stayed no contact with my sisters and their husbands. Both sisters have called from new numbers. Forget you, Google Voice. And left messages insisting that I meet with them for our parents' sake to work out how everyone can use the family vacation home. They called my wife too. I am glad I was already in the habit of not answering calls if I do not recognize the number. I honestly do not know if they are delusional or if they think they can bully me into giving them access again. I do not really care. My parents tell me that the oldest sister and her husband are getting out of the leases for their SUV and big truck and are selling their jet skis and some other things they have never needed. That is going to be really hard on her. She is quite the braggart and will not like being seen in something older, smaller, cheaper. My brother-in-law's identity is very much wrapped up with his truck as well. He even has a small tattoo of the truck company's logo, which frankly is one of the many reasons why he and I never hung out. Several people have suggested I make the vacation home into an Airbnb. I do not plan to do so, at least any time soon, that I know it would make money, but it would cause an incredible amount of drama across the family and would stress out my parents. They do not need that. It would also be a hassle to remove personal things my folks have there. That stuff has nowhere to go, and there would be wear and tear on the place. I am sure it would take some amount of time on my part, even though I would use a manager to do it. Just not worth it to me. Update post 5. November 27, 2023, 1.5 months later. Wrote most of this yesterday but decided to wait to post it until I was not so wound up. Waiting did not work. I am still wound up. Sorry if this rambles. So much has happened, hard to write coherently. Things have gone to hell. I really, truly did not think anything like this would happen. Short version. My brothers-in-law broke into my vacation home and were arrested. They have been charged with breaking and entering, destruction of property, and communicating threats. All Class 1 misdemeanors. I have refused to drop the charges. I might do so if I am fully paid for the damage they caused. They were still in jail as of Saturday evening. I assume they are out by now. Things had settled down, at least I thought so. I had not seen or heard from my sisters in over 6 weeks. My parents went up to the house for a week and had a good time. David, the property manager I hired, has worked out great. He has done a couple of repairs I asked him to do, and I have given him a list that he is going to work on. He usually sends a photo or two of wildlife or a sunset to his clients every week. Was kind of making me want to get up there. Friday after Thanksgiving, my brothers-in-law went to my vacation home. They used an angle grinder to cut through the chain on the driveway gate and damaged the gate in the process. They tried to get in through the front door, ruined the lock set, and gouged the door badly. They finally got in through the utility floor door and a locked internal door. They also broke into the barn. I'm not sure why. When they went out through the front door, they were met by sheriff's deputies and David. David gets notifications from the camera system when there is activity. He saw what was going on and called the sheriff's department. According to David, the brothers-in-law tried to talk their way out of it, but the deputies did not buy it. Breaking into an empty house is a pretty serious thing up there. Usually it is meth heads who ransack the place and hawk everything. When the brothers-in-law were arrested, they freaked out big time, were saying how they were going to beat the hell out of me, etc. Not smart to do in front of cops. David and the sheriff's office tried calling my wife and me to see what we wanted to do, but we were spending the day with her parents and had left our phones in the car so we could be in vacation mode. So they booked the brothers-in-law on everything, which is what I would have asked them to do anyway. Brothers-in-law called their wives from jail, who of course freaked out. They called my folks, tried to call me, they are blocked, and tried to find a lawyer up there to arrange bail. Not easy to do, given that it is a rural area and was a holiday weekend. Older sister has zero cash and her cards are maxed out, so if they made bail, my middle sister would have had to pay for both husbands. I know they were still in jail as of Saturday afternoon. We did not check our phones until late Friday on the way home from the in-laws. There were a ton of calls and messages from my mom, dad, David, and the sheriff's department. Talk about ruining a great day. I was in such a good mood until I looked at my phone. My wife read through the texts and listened to the messages, read them out to me, and by the time we got home I had some idea of what was going on. I put my brain back into thinking mode, tried to get past my anger, failed. Called David and got the rundown on what had happened and how bad the damage was, resulting in more anger. I ended Friday by calling the sheriff's department and telling them there was no misunderstanding. The brothers-in-law had absolutely no right to be on my property and I wanted to press charges. I did not call my folks back. Barely slept. I waited until Saturday afternoon to call my folks. They were both pretty rattled about it all, my mom in particular. My sisters had browbeat them into telling me I should tell the cops it was all a mistake and that I wanted the charges dropped. I refused flat out. Told them there was no way I would do that until I spoke with an attorney, And also not until I was paid in full for whatever it will cost to fix everything 100%. My mom was crying hard by the time we got off the phone, which of course made me feel like hell. My dad suggested it was time for a complete start over, but also said he thought they needed to pay for the damage. I have not gone up to the property yet. There is nothing I can do, and I will probably go nuts when I see the damage in person. The photos are bad enough. I am hoping to tomorrow or Wednesday, but my job is not one I can just wander off from for non-emergencies. I have left messages with 2 attorney friends asking them to recommend the right lawyers to go after my sisters and brothers-in-law. I do not know what I can do exactly, but I am hoping to get restraining orders. I have all the texts they have sent me that might help. I am strongly considering suing them for the money they made renting the place. I do not care about the cash, but it will help make them as miserable as possible. The gloves are definitely off at this point. Couple of side notes. 1. The brothers-in-law had no idea I had hired someone to keep an eye on things or that there are cameras there now. My parents knew but had not told them, because they knew it would just give my sisters a reason to stir up drama. There are signs on the property stating it is being monitored with cameras, and no trespassing signs too. 2. My wife has completely had it at this point. I do not blame her. She has been more than patient about it all, but she reached her limit and was not shy about letting me know. She told me it is up to me how I deal with this, but that she thought they all needed to be taught a hard lesson. 3. Older brother-in-law likely will not face any repercussions at his job over this, but middle brother-in-law has a security clearance, so he might. I am hoping that will be motivation for him to pay for the damages himself immediately. 4. David the caretaker has an interesting background. I knew he was friends with some of the deputies. Figured it was because they were all locals. I was wrong. He was a cop in a big city for years, was shot on duty, and afterward decided to quit and move to where his parents had retired. He has some PTSD over it all. His dog is a certified service animal and is usually with him. I know law enforcement people tend to hang together. I guess that is how they became his friend group. 5. I do not want to see or speak with these people for the rest of my life. I know this is in direct conflict with my overwhelming urge to make their lives as miserable as possible. Relevant comment. A lot of people have said I should have been a hard ass about all of this from day one. I avoided it because it would have stressed out my parents and I hate this kind of drama. But forget it, they are stressed out now. My wife has pretty much opted out of any more to do with this. Does not want to hear about it for a while and says it is in my lap. She leaves off on that, but I am guessing she is not going to get involved from now on, other than listening to me blow off steam. Edit regarding why they broke in. Conjecture on my part, but I think they were planning on using it for family getaways and are renting it out again. According to David, the property manager, it is deer season through the end of the year. I know the brothers-in-law have used it in the past as a base camp for big group hunting weeks. It sleeps quite a few people, so one event with friends could net them thousands of dollars. Again, I am guessing here, but that would explain why they broke into the barn as well. I bought a 6-seater mule a few years back, and they would want to use that. I do not think they wanted to trash the place. It means too much to my dad, and they both like him a lot. Update post 6. December 2nd, 2023, 5 days later. Did not think I would be doing another post this soon, but a lot has happened over the past 2 days. Short version, I think the corner has been turned on this crap. Thursday afternoon I got a courier-delivered envelope at my office. In it was a signed letter from both my brothers-in-law and a cashier's check for $5,000. In the letter, they made what I have to say was a really sincere apology. Among other things, they acknowledged breaking in, acknowledged it was wrong, said the $5,000 was to pay for the damage, and that they would pay more if it cost more than that. Also said they would stay away from the vacation home unless my wife and I specifically invited them. They also asked that I do what I could to get the charges dropped as soon as possible, because they both could lose their jobs, and that they would agree to a restraining order or whatever else it took for that to happen. There was more as well, all conciliatory, but that is the gist of it. To say this was a shock is an understatement. It was obviously a total 180 from their past behavior. I had already made an appointment with an attorney to see about suing my brothers-in-law over the damage, and to try to get a restraining order. I called him and told him what I just received, and he agreed to meet with me at the end of the day instead of next week. Told me not to deposit the check. We met for about 2 hours. He ended up recommending that my wife and I do a settlement and mutual release agreement with all 4 of them, sisters and brothers-in-law. He said if we went after them via lawsuit, we would almost certainly win, but that it could take 2 years or more. There would be sizable upfront legal fees and we might never see any money. He also said we could keep the $5,000 free and clear even if we did not let them off the hook. He is drawing up the agreement. It will not be ready until Monday. The agreement will include what is essentially the civil equivalent of a restraining order. I had already asked my property manager to work up a bid to get the damage repaired. I called him after the meeting and asked that he get me as close an estimate as possible ASAP. Got that Friday. He thinks it will take around $4,000 to fix everything. Most of that is for the front door. On Friday, my attorney contacted each of the brothers-in-law, told them what we were proposing, and advised them to get their own lawyers. They both agreed to it. The middle brother-in-law told them they could afford to either pay for the damages or pay for a lawyer, but not both, and they figured a lawyer would not make any difference given that they really had no defense for what they did. His biggest concern was if the charges could be dropped. From what I can tell, they are willing to do anything, sign anything to make this all go away. My attorney also called the district attorney's office on Friday to discuss dismissing the charges. Got the name of the prosecutor and left them a message but has not spoken to them yet. He thinks they will dismiss the charges because the brothers-in-law are paying up and they have no priors. But then again, he is not a criminal lawyer. He also said I should be prepared to drive up there Monday or Tuesday and tell the prosecutor in person that I want everything dismissed. He also advised me to continue to be no contact with sisters and brothers-in-law, especially for the next 6 months, and that it will be really important to follow the terms of the agreement when it comes to future interactions with them. I am guessing that the brothers-in-law's change of heart is due to them having figured out what is at stake for them, what it is going to cost them in legal fees and fines and so on. There is also the highly unlikely possibility that they could go to jail for up to 120 days. And as I have mentioned, one of them has a security clearance for his job. That could be at risk. So this is their Hail Mary pass to keep their normal lives. This is not a perfect resolution to the situation, but at least it will get me past the legal and financial part of the show that I have been in for the past few months. I doubt I will ever have a civil relationship with any of them ever again, and that is fine. What I want most at this point is to close this off, get on with my life, and never speak to any of them again. I am exhausted from this. Wife feels pretty much the same way. Kind of a side issue, but getting the written apology was weirdly a huge moment for me. I was not expecting that ever, but apparently it matters to me quite a bit. The money does not feel particularly important at this moment. I will damn sure take it though. Also, I am pretty certain my middle sister and her husband came up with the money. The cashier's check is from the credit union of the company he works for. Once things are signed, I plan to make one more update. Probably just an edit to this post. I'm sorry for being so pedantic. Writing these posts has helped clear my head, and the feedback has really helped. I truly appreciate everyone's comments, insights, and support. And I really hope none of you ever have to go through this kind of nonsense. Relevant comment. To be honest, when I finally got home Thursday night, I cried from relief thinking this might all be over. I am not going to discuss this settlement with my folks until it is signed by everyone. My sisters and brothers-in-law can if they want to, but I am not. It is between me and them. Final update. December 7, 2023, 5 days later. Tuesday morning I met with my attorney, went over the agreement, changed a couple of minor things, and he sent it to my sisters and brothers-in-law. It included a requirement that they pay my attorney's fee, about $3,000. They were not happy about that and tried to negotiate it away, but he told them they either accept it as is, or there would be no deal at all, and we would proceed with suing them for the money they got from renting out the place, wear and tear from renting it, repair costs from their break-in, emotional distress, lost income from having to deal with this, attorney fees, and whatever else we could. He also told them I would push hard with the DA's office to prosecute every charge. Short version, they came in and signed. I was not there. I am told it was a pretty tense environment. that the middle brother-in-law appeared to have taken charge, and that at one point, he told both of my sisters to shut the hell up or he was walking away from the whole thing, making his own deal with us, and the rest of them could all go to hell. They provided another cashier's check for $2,500, claimed that is all they had. It is close enough that we are going to accept it as the final payment. Attorney also told me that everyone was very cold and curt toward one another, but that they all managed to keep it together long enough to sign and left without making too big of a scene. I drove up to the vacation house early yesterday to check out the damage and meet with the DA's office. Seeing the damage made my blood boil. It was so senseless. I was so pissed that I was ready to eat the cost of repairs and do everything I could to ruin their lives. Tried walking it off, failed utterly. Ended up calling a good friend, who was kind enough to stay on the phone for over an hour, letting me spew and vent. He eventually got me back to focusing on the bigger picture, of putting this behind me and getting on with my life. Honestly, I am still not sure that is what I want to do. But I settled down enough to get some food in me and I felt better after lunch. I went to the DA's office, had not made an appointment and had to wait a while, but got to meet with the assistant DA who's got the case. Short version is that since I do not want to prosecute and the brothers-in-law have already paid for the damages, they are willing to drop all the charges except trespassing, which in this case will be a Class 2 misdemeanor. The brothers-in-law will have to plead guilty and pay whatever fine the judge sets. I am also told that if they fight the trespassing charge, or ever so much as fart in public up there, that it would go very poorly for them. It helped that the brothers-in-law did not resist arrest. If they had, none of the charges would have been dropped. I also went by the sheriff's office to thank them for getting there so quickly and everything. Wanted to thank the deputies personally but only spoke to the dispatch person. I tried to meet up with David, the property manager, but could not get hold of him. Couple of notes. The agreement includes a no-contact clause. Basically, if any of them show up where my wife or I are, or the other way around, whoever got there last has to leave immediately. No contact except through attorneys or other mutually agreed upon third parties. They get to keep whatever they made from renting the vacation house. My big give, unless I have tax consequences, which they will be responsible for. And we release each other from all other liabilities up through the present. There is more to it than that, but those are the high points. Wife and I will sign the agreement later today. After that, I cannot talk about most of this, but I can talk around it. I think this is my final update regarding all this nonsense. But I will respond to comments if I can. As I have said before, posting about all of this and reading folks' thoughts and responses has been really helpful, and has probably been key in my being able to handle this in a relatively healthy way. So thank you all again. Relevant comments. I had a hard time not being vindictive, but right now I am glad I was not. If they cause more drama down the road, I will probably regret it. But if they follow the agreement, it will not happen. The family dynamics are, like you said, pretty much messed up. I have only told my parents that we are trying to work things out. Nothing more. They may or may not be okay with the way things will be moving forward, but I had to do what was best for my wife and me. I am guessing that my sisters have told them a very slanted version. That is just one more problem I will have to swim around. Really, the agreement is more a formalization of how things have been for the last few months. I know it is not how my folks wanted things to go, but I am pretty happy with it. Have your sisters ever shown this level of entitlement before? Not really, not towards me anyway. We used to be okay. Never very close, but not enemies. Looking back, they started to resent me when I bought a loft when I was 25. At that point, neither of them owned a home, but both had met their future husbands. They definitely did not like that I got a place before they did. It got worse when I met my wife. They did not like that she was part of a wealthy family, especially since I was doing pretty well by then myself. Accused me of being elitist and such. When we got married, I moved in with my wife. Her condo was close to where she was doing her fellowship, and I sold the loft. Our wedding was fancy but reasonable. But the sisters were definitely envious about it. After that, they and their husbands got pretty petty, and we started minimizing our involvement with them. The profit from selling the loft, being frugal, and not having a house payment are what enabled me to buy the vacation home for my parents. My folks were okay with hiding the fact that I owned it instead of them, because they knew my sisters would be bitter about it and say that I was using my wife's money. I did not. Most of our finances are separate, though it definitely helped that I did not have a house payment. Up until this crap started, I actually thought we were okay in the general sense. Our daily lives are very different, and I cannot pretend I enjoy being around them for more than half a day, but I did not think they hated me. I did know that both sisters had become pretty spoiled and entitled, but it was not my concern, and I did not have any real conflicts with my brothers-in-law either, just almost nothing in common with them. God, I guess that is a long-winded way of saying I did not know they were all such. One last thought. My small fantasy at this point is that I never hear from them again. In the end, what was supposed to be a peaceful family retreat turned into a long and painful lesson about boundaries, trust, and self-respect. Sometimes walking away is not weakness, it is protection. And sometimes cutting ties is not revenge, it is healing. Thank you for staying with me through this story. If you have ever dealt with toxic family dynamics or stood up for your peace, share your experience in the comments. Do not forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. More real-life stories are coming soon.